Welcome to the Blind Zone, where curiosity brings its own reward. And what am I curious about today? I'm curious about the difference between the apocalypse and Armageddon. And I know you're thinking, this is going to be a cheery topic. And how the whole thing got started was a couple nights ago. Well, actually, it was in the morning. I was listening to a program when I was still in bed, and I heard something scritch, scritch, scritching by my left ear. And I rolled over. It was a bug on my pillow. I picked it up with my hand, I threw it on the floor, and then I did the obligatory scream. Then, after I got out of bed, I had to find it and kill it because you just can't let bugs rolling around. And it made me think of what happens during, if this whole thing goes sideways, there's going to be more than one little bug on my bed. And so I thought, how prepared am I? And the answer is, with the bug population, not very. I really don't like bugs. But it also got me to thinking about what the difference is between the apocalypse and Armageddon. And when I asked Siri about the definition of apocalypse, she said that it was the mass destruction of the earth. And I thought, yep, that sounds about right. And in all the prepper videos I've watched, they talk about, you know, the apocalypse and what happens with that. And 90% of people die. And, again, really happy stories. But then I thought about that it's basically kind of a man-made thing. It might be a natural disaster, but something that affects, big populations or the whole earth would seem kind of crazy, but maybe not so crazy because I've read Revelation. But you think about that, and we all think, I envision uh, apocalypse kind of like a man-made thing where somebody said, I've had it with you, and everybody's got their thumb on the nuclear whatever. And that's that I think has some real possibilities. But again, I was told to prepare, but I don't know for what, and I don't know if that's what I'm to be preparing for. But it did get me to thinking about Armageddon, which is also in the book of Revelation, and it talks about what is going to happen at the very end with Jesus' second advent when he comes the second time, and it's going to be as a conquering king. So in the book of Revelation, and I'll give you a really quick tour of that, the book of Revelation has, you have to look at it in a couple different levels. You have to read the chapter and see if it's talking about if you're on earth or if you're in heaven, or if they're paragraphs telling you about, they're parenthetical, or they're telling you or describing either a scene in earth or in heaven. But the bigger thing is this is when Armageddon happens. Now, first off, the believers who are followers in the Lord Jesus Christ, they get taken up to heaven, and that's called the rapture. So who is left on earth is all the people who did not bow their knee when they could, and they're all left here. So then after that, you get the 7 seal judgments, the 7 trumpet judgments, the 7 bowl judgments. And at that point, after all that's done, and those are done in succession, and there everyone is worse than the other one. And during that time, while you think that God is out to punish these people, he is not. He is giving everybody an opportunity to, again, acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord. So he goes through a lot in the book of Revelation at the end times that try to get people to just finally say, I surrender. But what's most surprising to me about the book of Revelation is that you have some people, after the bowl judgments pour out on the earth, that are literally shaking their fist in God's face, saying, never, never bring the mountains down on us. And so Armageddon is after all the judgments are done, the seal, the trumpets, and the bowl, then there's going to be 1,000-year millennial reign on earth where Jesus comes back and he sets up his kingdom, but not the final kingdom. He's here, but during that time, Satan is allowed to come out and do his worst. And he, even with Jesus right there as our commander in chief, so to speak, people are still able to wow themselves away from who Christ is. Well, and I think about it now, and I think that even before earth was, and Satan was in heaven, he wanted to be like God. So he was even able to encourage a third of the angels to rebel. So if he can do that with angels that are looking right in the face of God, it's no surprise that he can talk silly humans who still have, Adam's sinful heart in them to do things that are not in their best interest. So after the 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ, then Armageddon happens. There's the final conflict where Satan gathers all of his troops to come against the Lord's troops. But like Pastor Joby Martin said, this is a very short battle because Jesus, who comes with the flaming sword out of his mouth with words, he ends the battle. And like Pastor Martin said, he came in a white robe. So he knew he wasn't going to get dirty, and he knew it was going to take a very short amount of time. So that's it. The battle's done. Satan is bound and put into the lake of fire, never to be seen or heard from again. And then the new heaven and the new earth takes place. So the difference between apocalypse, and this is just me, although I think I'm right, but it just might be me, that apocalypse is man-made and Armageddon is God-driven, and he alone knows the time that that's going to happen. And I can honestly say I probably won't be here for Armageddon, since that's after a 1,000-year reign, and I'll already be raptured up into the church when Jesus calls us all back before the real trouble starts, the 7 years of tribulation on the earth. So that's it. Not a fun topic, and it all started with some creepy bug crawling on my pillow and recognizing that things are going to get worse before they finally get better when Jesus comes to make all the wrongs right and fix it once and for all. So that's it for me. We'll see you next week on The Blind Zone.